Yep. How's that? Good evening, everybody, and welcome for the third time to this evening's program, the rest of tonight's program. This is our last meeting at this venue, and I'm informed that we have had meetings here for 27 years, about. That's quite some time. And we've seen some changes in that time. We've seen slide film, remember slide film? $1 a shot every time you did it. Not only from the film point of view, but also the things we take. And that's best illustrated by just a little wee story. Grandma, what's that photograph? Oh, that's at the Christchurch earthquakes. That's you and I and Grandad in front of the cathedral after it's been demolished. Roll on 25, 30 years, different people. Grandad, Grandma, what's that photograph? Oh, that's my breakfast. I'm sure we're not going to have breakfast tonight. Well, it's my turn now to ask Ian to come up and introduce our speaker.
First of all, Nelson, I wouldn't be surprised if it's still a wreck in the cathedral in 25 years, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. It's really fantastic when we get an ex-CPS member come to speak to us and to illustrate just how well people go after they've been at CPS. Now, I got this piece of paper handed to me with Kevin's lists of things that he's done, and it goes on too long and I can't read it anyway because I haven't got my glasses, so I'm just going to hold it and pretend I have. But the crux of it is he started here in 2001 and was a member of CPS for around 6 years, cleaning up everything. His name is all over the Photojournalism Award and all over the broader Photojournalism Award. So I think at that point, it was a bit of an indication that CPS was teaching him something about photojournalism, and maybe that's a good career. He's gone on and had a fantastic career as a professional photojournalist. I would like to add that he's not the only one who's come to CPS and learned the basis of their craft and gone on to a successful professional career. That doesn't have to be the aim for everybody, but it is a really good place to come to learn about photography. So well done everybody on being here. And here we are tonight. As I said, as Nelson said, this is our very last meeting at the Riccarton Community Church. So once again, it's fantastic to have somebody back as an ex-member to talk to us and to inspire us about where to go. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kevin Clarke.
I'm glad you didn't. I'm so glad he didn't read that out. Okay, bear with me a second. I've just got to set this up. Won't be 2 secs. Actually, before I do that, before we go into slideshows, how can we darken the screen down so I haven't got the Crusaders behind me? Ah, it's all right. They'll survive. 'Where to begin? 2001, as Ian said, I was sitting there. I'd sold my shipping container business, and photography had always been a hobby. And I decided that enough money in the bank that I was just going to take a couple of years off and really focus on my photography, which, as I said, had been a hobby since I was 5, 6 years old. My dad's a naval officer, and I used to steal his cameras, and he'd go off on the ship and then send letters back to my mum and say, "Where's all my film gone?" So I'd used it. But I joined CPS, and I was very lucky to get in with this lovely old gent here, Neil Grenfell, who taught me almost everything I know about photojournalism, or reinforced what I thought I knew about photojournalism would probably be more to the point. But I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for this gent. He had all the time and all the patience in the world for all the questions in the world. So Thank you, Neil. Photography. Before I start, I need to get the right thing up. Unless, Alistair, you want to do it on your laptop and just keep stopping and starting. Bear with me a second. And we're going to put you full screen. Let's do this a bit easier. Sorry about this. Right. My images come from a desire to create something that would not exist if it was not for me. They're a marriage of my imagination, the reality of what I see through the lens, and what I feel in my heart. And as it says, not for immortality, not for anything. I take photographs for me. The fact that other people like them is fantastic. Oh, can we turn my voice down a wee bit? Thank you. That's where I come from when I'm doing my photography. A lot of the stuff that you get on Facebook, you look at it, and one of the first questions that comes up is these days is that, oh, that's AI. Is it AI? Is it real? Is it this? As we go through, I have two settings that I look at. When I'm doing my photojournalism, when I'm doing my news stuff, and when I'm doing images that I've done nothing to, it'll say photo by Kevin Clarke. If I've taken something out, be it a sheep or a lamb or whatever, or moved a tree or taken a branch out, it's image by Kevin Clarke. I don't use AI, I don't use generative AI, I don't use any of that. The only stuff I do is stuff that I would do in the darkroom way, way back 1 million years ago. So in saying that, let's look at some of the images. More often than not, that's me. No one else around. going to pause? Yes, it is. Pause, pause. What does it mean? It means that when you go out and you see the everyday, even within the everyday, there are things that will capture the imagination of somebody else. I was talking to, I do a lot of tours now with Americans, and I bring them to New Zealand, and we do photography tours, take them around New Zealand. One of the things that struck me over the last 2 or 3 years is that the stuff that I take as everyday, they go, wow, wow, because it's so different. We were talking earlier this morning about safaris, and one of the guys hit the nail on the head. Here in New Zealand, we have birds, and we're so used to seeing birds, and they're really nice, but you kind of get blasé about, oh, it's just another heron photo, or it's just another gannet photo. He was saying it's the same when he's in South Africa, that it's just another cheetah photo, it's just another elephant photo, it's just another lion photo, and I go, wow, I'd love to go over there and do lions, cheetahs, elephants. And he said the same thing that most people say, 90% of a great shot is actually being there to take it. But yeah, so the stuff that we see as ordinary, if you're sending it to somebody else that doesn't normally see that, they will see it as extraordinary. So never excuse the mundane, never let it slide and think that there's nothing there to photograph, because there's always something to photograph. I'm going to stop on this one. We were talking about the extraordinary. This is just a field outside Cave. And you drive along the road, and the field does this, loops and arcs. And I've been past it probably 100 times, but this time I go past it, and the field in the front is fallow, not grass. So straight away you see this big, beautiful, curving line in that, and it's simplicity in itself, but it works together, or at least I think it works. Do you think it works? Yeah. That's good, I'm glad you said yes. But yeah, everywhere we look, there's something that works. You just gotta, we were talking about minimalism earlier in the week as well. Minimalism isn't what you take out, it's what you leave in. Sorry. I'm just going to, no, I'm not. Carry on. We got any accountants in the room? Thank you. 1 + 1 = 5. I have no idea where I came up with that, but I'm sure I heard it somewhere back in my school days. But 1 + 1 = 5 is basically the way my brain works. I see what's there, I think about something else, and I make something else out of it. I think I was trying to explain it to someone a few months back, and I think what it is that when you're doing photography, don't be limited by what you see. There's nothing wrong with, like you were doing ICMs. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of ICM. I try very hard not to do ICM. But when you're doing it, that's 1 + 1 = 5, because you're taking something and you're creating something else out of it, which basically doesn't exist. You're making it exist. So that's what 1 + 1 = 5. Classic example, Milford Sound. I go to Milford Sound at least 23, 24 times a year. I'm lucky, but every now and again I get caught that I need something different. Everyone know where this is? This is Lake Alexandrina. I love Lake Alex. It's one of my favorite places in New Zealand. The image you see is all there. Everything you see in that image is at Lake Alex. But the jetty is nowhere near as red or as clean because it's always covered in duck poo, so you've got to tidy up the duck poo. So that's the start of it. But I look at it and it's like, you know the science fiction movies when you're standing there and they've got the guy standing there and the distance comes in and in and in and in. So they bring the distance into you. It's like when I'm shooting, the idea was that I did it as a wide shot with my 24mm. And then because I'm a photojournalist, I've got a 400mm f2.8. So I get the f2.8 out and I look at it and I go, oh, just the godly range looks so cool when it comes right in. So I go, why not? So this is taken with the 2800, the 24mm. Everything above that line is taken with the 400. And it's just blended in. So is it real? Yes and no. It's real because that's the way I see it. It's real to me. So when I'm putting that out, it's an image by Kevin Clarke. It's not a photograph because you go there, you're never going to see this. But it works. Stop this one. The reason I'm stopping on this one is I put this up on, this was taken 2 or 3 years ago, and it's in my book. I put it on Facebook on the New Zealand Awesome site today. And Neil Davidson, everyone's going, wow, wow, wow. Neil Davidson comes on and says, you know, you've obviously spent a lot of time editing and creating it. And I went, well, yeah, but the tree is there, and the hill is there. Everything's there. All I've done is taken a tree out of here, a tree out of there, and a little bush from up here. Because I'm creating an image. It's not photojournalism, it's art. Photography is art. Even though painters don't like to think of us as artists, we are artists. But again, does it work? Show of hands. I should come back to CPS, I like this. This hut does exist. I have to stop this. This image always makes me laugh. One of my favorite views of Mount Cook, it's from the guy, Chris owns the cafe at Lake Matheson. He's a very good friend. So every now and again we stay at his house. This is the view from the back of his house. Okay, all the way through the field, Mount Cook, Tasman. This little building here is actually in Wanganui. It's on a beach about 10 miles south of Wanganui. And I'm quite open and honest that I do this, and it's nice, it's fun. So I put this on Facebook, and I put the image on Facebook with the church, and I called it The Church Under the Mountain. It's a painting, it's a work of art. So about 5 or 6 weeks later, I get an email from a certain lady photographer who spends all of her time on the coast, saying, I've hunted up and down trying to find this little church. Where? And God, and I went, Wanganui. So yeah, it's, but can you tell? No. I'm very good at what I do when it comes to stuff like this, but the reason it works is that the fence line, New Zealand's brilliant. We have number 8 wire and the fence posts are all the same no matter where you are in the country. So the fences in Wanganui are the same as the fences in Fox. So, sorry, I'm letting out all my secrets here. I'm not telling you who the photographer is either. I'm going to stop it again. Sorry, I'm going to stop and start. But Hagley Park. I walk through Hagley Park in the autumn and I go, yeah, beautiful. And I stand there and I'm looking at it, I go, my legs are getting tired. Why isn't there a seat here? This is beautiful. The council needs to hire people who know where good photographs are or where good viewpoints are. So I grab a seat from somewhere else and I put it in there. But again, it works. It's an image, it's created. On that line, hands up those who've been to Arrowtown. Okay. Hands up all of you who've been to Arrowtown in autumn and look at the police station and go, what the hell have the council done? They put a car park in front of it with 3 big boulders. There's a hedge that has grown up with 2 trees and they put rubbish bins in front of it. So the most beautiful shot in Arrowtown you now can't get. So you have to Photoshop it, you have to take stuff out to get the original shot that you used to be able to get 10 years ago. Inspiration is 90% planning. Yes, it is. Whenever I go out, and I'm lucky, I was about to say I have a job. I'm a full-time photographer, that's my job. But according to my mother-in-law, I don't have a job, I have a hobby that pays. And she's probably right, because if you love your job, it's not a job. I spend an inordinate amount of time planning my photo shoots. Anybody here know Annette Johnson? If you've met Annette, you know that she is very pernickety, absolutely brilliant photographer and flowers and what have you. She has been my best friend for years. I did her daughter's wedding and everything. When Annette and I go taking photographs, when she comes down to the South Island, she's down next week, which is great, she gets so frustrated because I get out of the car, and we'll stop the car, I'll get out of the car, and I'll go, yeah, jump, 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 and I'm done. Because I know where I want to stop, I know what I've already planned it for the time we're going to be there, and she gets out of the car and I'm done. I'm going, well, hurry up. And she'll spend an hour working out what she's going to do. But that's Annette. She likes to do things on the spur of the moment. I don't. I like to pre-plan everything. If I'm going somewhere that I haven't been, I'll look at photographers, especially overseas, I'll look at what photographers have done on Facebook. I'll look at what photographers on their websites, especially the local ones. I'll look on Google Earth. I'll check the sunrise, sunset. Pools is a fantastic tool, even here in New Zealand. But everywhere I go where I haven't been, Google Earth is what I first do, just to check angles and see where everything is. And then especially when I'm doing the photo tours, even though I've never been there before, I've been there. And my clients think it's fantastic. And they go, God, you've been everywhere. And I go, yep. But so inspiration is 90% planning. You've got to be prepared for what you want to capture. In basic terms, there's no use going at sunset to get a sunrise shot. I'm going to stop again. Does anyone know where this is? Yep, Central Otago. Never say that to someone from the Manitoto though, because they get upset. It's the Manitoto. But the Manitoto is my favorite part of New Zealand, bar none. I love it down there. If Karen, my wife, would let me, we would live down there. But she won't let me, especially now we've got grandkids on the way who are in Christchurch, so any chance I have of living in the Manitoto is gone. Danzi's Pass is that way. Ranfurly is that way. Naseby is over those trees and about 3 miles that way, or 5 k's. So this guy here owns this farm here. We were driving past, we'd been at Danzi's overnight, we were coming around that corner, we come up the drive. Just here, there's a dip in the road. And I'm cruising along, doing about 60, 70 k's, looking out both sides of the window as I normally do, when my wife goes, sheep! So I slam on the brakes, she goes forward, gets whiplash. All the sheep are coming towards me, so I stop. I take a few photos of the sheep coming up over the rise and everything else, and say good day, have a chat with John, the farmer. And I get off, start the car up again, and off I go. I'm going down the dip, and I slam on the brakes again. Karen gets whiplash again. And I turn around, and this is what I see. So I get out of the car, and I take that shot with a couple of other shots. And I get back in the car, and by this time, John's already down the track and about to go in, so I'm not going to chase after him. I'll look at the image when I get home, and I go, yeah, that works. I like that. I've sold umpteen of them, which is great, especially to the Americans down in Queenstown. every time I've gone to give it to John, I never got the chance to because he was never in there, and I didn't want to leave a copy of the canvas outside in the farm because it'd disappear. I finally caught up with him. This was 3 years ago. Like this has taken 10, 11 years ago. Finally caught up with him 2 or 3 years ago, after COVID. So it's only, yeah, it is 3 years ago. He's retired. The dog, one of his dogs has died. And I gave him that and he burst out into tears. So he's now got that hanging. He doesn't have the farm. His boy's got the farm anymore. He's got a cottage which is just up the road a bit. But this now hangs pride of place in his house. But that's one of the things I love about photography, that it's not just about our emotions, it's about the viewer's emotions. And it's a slice of history. In 100 years, they'll look at that and go, God, was that what it was like? But yeah, was it the song, Every Picture Tells a Story? Photojournalism can be art, can't it, Neil? Oh. I'm going to stop again, stopping and starting. I've warmed up now, I'm sorry. Have you ever seen the Church of the Good Shepherd from this angle? No. Have you ever seen the Church of a Good Shepherd with nobody around it? It's just impossible, isn't it? No, it wasn't. It was after COVID. It's actually taken from the balcony of the Grand Suites, which is the hotel at the top of the road by the bridge. And the reason I'd done that was same thing. I had the 400mm lens. I'd gone up to the bridge. I thought, nah, not quite close enough. So I'd gone up again, and I'd taken it again so that I was further away. So the 400mm f2.8 compresses everything. So that's why it's not Photoshop. That's what it does. It just squeezes the background in. But yeah, it's my favorite shot of the Church of the Good Shepherd. So you could knock on the door of the Grand Suites and ask them if we could borrow a room for the morning. I'm sure it's the same for you guys. Every experience you've had, everything that you've done, every person that you've met, everything you've ever done from the day you can remember goes into every photo. Because the way you see stuff is based on your past history. And as it says, I don't know any other way to do it. I'm passionate about my photography. I love my photography. I love going out with my camera. Ian introduced me as a photojournalist. I kind of am, because that's what people know me best as. I have 3 websites. I have CMG Sport, or 3 businesses. I have CMG Sport that does all the sports stuff. I have CMG Studios that does the weddings and the portraits and the events. And I have Kevin Clarke Photography that does the stuff I love, like the landscapes. I'm just a photographer. my best friend and my big brother, who's always good at putting me down, they tell me that the reason I'm a photographer is because I can't draw and I can't paint. There's probably a little bit of truth in that, because growing up I grew up in a village in Scotland called North Queensferry. You might not have noticed that. I'm not a Kiwi, I'm a Scot. I've only been here 40 years and I haven't had half my brain removed yet. That's a good thing, because the reason I say that is because when I went to Australia playing football when I first got here, they says, "Oh, what do you want to go to Australia, New Zealand for?" And I said, "I only need half my brain removed to be a Kiwi." And he went, "Oh, that's funny." Oh, yeah. And he went, "Hang on." I said, "Exactly." What was it Muldoon said? Increases the IQ of both countries. I digress. Sorry. Growing up, there were 4 of us that grew up together, 4 best friends. My best friend, who's my best friend still, Bobby Banks. Bob could paint or draw anything. He's just absolutely fantastic. He's got stuff in the National Gallery of Scotland and everything else. He's just wonderful. That's number 1. His cousin, Ian Banks, was Ian M. Banks, the culture, the Wasp Factory, everything else. International bestseller, brilliant, God rest his soul, he died 5 years ago. But that was number 2. Number 3 was my older brother, who's beautiful painting artist, could do anything. And number 4 was Mike Greeley, who was also a writer, but he did work for the Scotsman newspaper. So I grew up with these guys, and I could do nothing other than play football and take photos. And they kept going, "It's just a photo. It's just a photo. It's never just a photo." So maybe that's why I'm a photographer. We're only given 1 or 2 things that we can be good at in this life, and thankfully photography is one of mine. Before we go on to the next one, which is about Tuscany, and it's a different one of Tuscany. Normally I do Tuscany in colour. I've been doing a lot of black and whites because my publisher wants a book on Tuscany, but he wants a black and white one. So the next slideshow is to test whether you like these or not, because if you don't like them, it's not going in the book. But does anyone have any questions for me? I like answering questions. Yep. No. No. The answer I've got for that one is when Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, people hadn't seen God. That was his interpretation of God. So I guarantee Michelangelo didn't worry whether people had seen God or not. He just painted what he felt was right. That's what artists do. I'm a photographer, I'm an artist. I create stuff. But I'm honest enough to admit that when I do create it, I put my hand up and say, it's an image. I've created this image. It's not a photograph. If I was doing it for a newspaper, it's a photograph. The black and white ones that you'll see, they're photographs. The art stuff is creative, but no. I think if you're honest with yourself and you're honest with everybody else that you have done that, I think PSNZ's got this big thing at the moment that they're trying to work out how the hell do you deal with AI-generated images. It's an integrity thing. I think you can't, unless you do what NZIPP do, where you ask for the raw file, which is ridiculous, because the raw file is just a starting point. It's a good question, though, and it deserved a good answer, so hopefully. But that's where I come from. Yes, I do use Photoshop, always use Photoshop. I remember when I first started. Remember your comments, Neil? It'll never replace slides. It'll never replace film. I think I rang you up the first day you bought, actually you rang me. Says, you'll never believe it, I've bought a digital camera, he says. The camera, the first two things I tell, not students, I tell my guests when they come on my courses is, number one is a question, have you read the camera manual? That's always the first question, because there's so many people think that the camera is doing the work. It's not. You need to use it, and you need to know what it does. I get people on tour that go, my camera won't do that. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. No, you just don't know how to do it, but it does it. Double exposures. That was last week. How do I make it do a double exposure, multiple exposure? Read your manual. I was pontificating there. What was the question, the comment? Oh, yeah, give yourself permission. It's, you're allowed to create. That's why God gave us a brain. You're allowed to be creative, unless you're an accountant or work in a bank or a lawyer, but you're allowed to be creative. That's what we are. We are artists, we're photographers. We are allowed to create images. ICM. Hands up all those who put ICM images in tonight. Creating images. That image did not exist before you thought of it or you moved that camera. Who took the one of the Eiffel Tower? See, I was paying attention, loved it, beautiful. I love the fact that you put the images. I don't know why you stopped at 3 though. I would have done about 30 and but beautiful. Yeah, no wonder you've got it on your wall. See, I was paying attention up the back. Creativity is what separates us from everything else on this planet. Yeah, we're not Philistines. Any other questions? It's very quiet. Wow, cool. Okay, you just want to see the Tuscany photos, eh? Okay. So, Tuscany. Every year or so we go through to Tuscany and we do photo tours there. Normally in April, May, which is when this was. The next tour we're doing is in September, which is different for me because normally I've got football stuff and photo tours here in September. 2025, we're going to Tuscany and taking a bunch of Americans there. So black and white Tuscany. Please forgive me if you don't like these. And please tell me if you don't. Hopefully I've got the right one. No, it's the colour one. So you can watch the colour one first, then I'll do the black and white one. These are all photos. None of these are images. So nothing has been changed. So it's travel photography is photojournalism. Two reasons for going to Tuscany in May, in April, May. Number one is poppies, because the poppies are everywhere April, May. And number two is in Tuscany, because it's higher up, especially around Montalcino and Siena and Pienza, it's still cold at night. So you get the mist in the morning in the valleys, which is absolutely beautiful. Right, where am I? I think this is the one that I was supposed to show you. So, yes, it is. Right. No, it's not. So there's a few images from Berlin and from Scotland in this slideshow. Sorry, I'm just going to go back. Oh, press wrong bit. Sorry. Sorry about that. It's gone all wonky. Maybe Karen's done that deliberately because that's my darling wife walking into Bagno Reggio, sorry. When you're photographing in Europe doing street photography. There's marked differences between the countries. Italy is very relaxed. Nobody cares about you taking a photograph. Part of it in Montalcino and Pienza is because I've been there so many times, they recognize me and like they'll burst out laughing and say, that mad photographer's here again. I went to visit my son in Berlin, and the photograph of the cafe in Berlin where you've got the guy sitting out on the table, I took 3 shots, and all of a sudden we're turning away, and all of a sudden there's a shout, and the owner of the cafe comes barging across, says, no photo, no photo. And I went, you must delete, you must delete. And I went, oh, okay. And I picked up the first, I said, that one? And he went, yes, delete, there you go, thank you. I didn't tell him I'd taken 3 shots, but they are very, very picky on what you can and can't photograph in Germany. The UK is getting that way in England, but in Scotland, same thing, they don't care. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have the right one on. It's history. Especially, my son lives in part of Berlin that was East Berlin, so they are very, very, they don't want to be monitored. There's a lot of freedoms, and there's no, you go to London or Paris, or even here now, there's more cameras in Christchurch than there are people now. Berlin, there's no cameras anywhere, other than around the Reichstag, and that's it. They do not want to be filmed. But yeah, so it's historical more than legal.
So Kevin, in terms of, if you're going to use that set of beautiful images, I've really enjoyed that journey
Yeah.
you've taken us through. How, in terms of release forms, and what hurdles do you need to jump through to?
None whatsoever.
Right.
Because European law, EEC laws are that if you're in a public place, it's open slather. If you have a photo of one particular person, like if you use it in a commercial way as a poster to advertise a product, then yes, you've got to do X, Y, Z. But if you're doing a book about Tuscany, then you're fine, because it's public places and everything else. If I took a photo of them and said, this person recommends my book, that's different. But luckily I've got a publisher who looks after all that stuff for me. But yeah, they're fine with it. It's a lot more of an issue here in New Zealand than it is anywhere else other than the States and Australia. They don't really care about it.
You mean overseas?
Yeah, overseas, yeah. Yeah, I find it's tougher here or in the UK to wander around and do street photography than it is anywhere in Europe. The States is fine as well, again, depending on which city you're in, but most of them are fine. But yeah, Christchurch, New Zealanders, even in Auckland, they get weird, and it's normally the security guards that get weird, not the people. Questions?
Is there a reason why you had 2 children?
Yes, there's a very good reason. I put it in the wrong way. Yeah, no, definitely not being artistic. That was just me being daft. Mainly because the slideshow you just saw was a test slide, so it wasn't the one you were actually supposed to see. But which I can't work out because there's so many of them there. Is
A lot of that journey over there, a lot of that can't be planned. So how do you?
which the Tuscany one? Yeah. Oh no, it's all planned. You never know what you're going to see when you do it. But when I do a tour, I have a daily schedule, and we do 10 days in Tuscany. Every day is mapped out where we're going, how long we're going to be there, and what we're going to see.
So in terms of like one shot where, you've got a puddle.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the weather. You.
That sort of stuff, or just the photos of the children.
I'm just going to sit.
The old guys sitting at the table.
I'm good, not God. I can control the stuff I can control, but I can't do that. But that's the beauty of street photography. You never know what you're going to see around each corner. I love it. I love just taking my camera and wandering. I'm amazed no one's asked me about gear. I'm a Canon ambassador. I don't get paid by Canon, but they give me money off. And they look after me when I need new gear. So I do articles and stuff for them. But I have my favorite lens is 28-300. I'll use it almost everywhere I go when I'm traveling, because it means I only need one lens, one camera. And it does the job. And it means that I don't always need to be in people's faces when I'm taking photos. But yeah, you can only control what happens from the front of the lens back to you in your head. That's what you're there to control. Everything else is open slather. If you do it enough, and you're quick enough, and you know how your camera works, so you can change the settings on the fly, then you're going to capture more images that happen like that. But you've got to see it first. If you don't see it and you don't feel it, you're never going to capture it. That's the hardest part to get across sometimes, is that you'll hear every now and again, like you've all heard it, oh, that's a great photo, you must have a great camera. It's not the camera that sees it, it's not the camera that takes the photo, it's not the camera that creates it. The camera that's the tool we use to capture what we see with our own eyes, or our mind's eye, or our imagination, or whatever you use. Camera is just the bit in between. So it doesn't, even though I'm a Canon ambassador, I saw someone going, I don't care what you shoot with, Nikon, iPhone. You know what the best camera is? The one you've got with you. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be Nikon. I've still got the very first camera my father bought me, I still have, and it's a Zenit TTL. And every now and again, I refresh myself and I go out with that and think, bloody hell, imagine doing my job with this. So yeah, it's great to have the tools, but you need to know how to use those tools. That might be the one. Shall we try that one? You might see some of the images that you've already seen. Top row, right. Actually, instead of Tuscany, let's do a bit closer to home, which is also in black and white, and it's the next book after the Tuscany one, which I've wanted to do for a while, because the Maniatura as I said, is my favorite place, and I love the people down there. So this is a sneak peek at what we're going through with the publisher at the moment. Hopefully. Yes, it is. This is the first set of sample images that I've sent to the publisher. was rolled a long way. Track there. It's not a bad image. So you might be wondering why there's a lot of shots at the old cookhouse on Home Hills Road. Is that the book is based around the two families down there, the Duncans and the McKnights. The McKnights own Home Hills Road and the land that stretches down Creek Road. The Duncans own their farm is on Black Sow Road, so they're neighbours, but the whole book revolves around their past histories. So there's lots of photos in and around them. I like doing the rail trail. Oh, sorry, I should clarify that. I like sitting in my car and taking photos and watching the kids do the biking bits. It is quite nice being a sports photojournalist though, because every now and again, like when people do the coast to coast, I said, what were you doing on the weekend? I said, oh, I was at the coast to coast. Oh, did you do it? I went, yeah, I did it. And they go, oh, what, the longest day? And I went, yeah, no, I did both. I did the longest day and the second day. How'd you do that? I said, oh, it's part of the job. Just got to do it. Never tell them you're a photographer. Marathons are the same. Hamner Half Marathon on December 7th, I'll be there. Queenstown Marathon, I was there. You can tell I like old buildings, eh? I'm going to stop it on this one. There's only 4 trees there. If you'd been there 2 years ago, there were 4.5 trees. And I made the comment to Tom Duncan that I didn't like the small tree. It was annoying. It was in the wrong place. It just didn't fit in. I came back 2 months later and he says, I've taken your tree out. And what he'd done was they'd put the path, they've put cattle in this field, so he's actually put a track that just runs through there. And he says, I had to cut the bloody thing out anyway. It wasn't growing properly. But yeah, so if something's not right, just tell somebody and you never know what can happen. I think this goes on with more of the same. Yeah. I'm getting, it is repetitive, isn't it? It's lots of the same images. This one here, the Maniatodo's open slather for everybody. It's this is at Dry Bread. Dry Bread is more known for the cemetery that's up and around the corner, but the track to it is very easy to miss, and every now and again I miss it. But when I miss it, it's great because I end up stopping at the old, where the old pub used to be on the corner, which is now part of the farm. The last time we stopped there was when I was down doing the winter workshop with Ashburton Photographic Society, which is another story. But we ended up stopping here on the way back because we had trying to get our tower fixed. So while the tower was being fixed, we were all in here taking photographs, and also in because they were shearing the sheep, so we get lots of shots of the sheep being sheared. But if you get the chance to go down there, go up to Dry Bread, and instead of going to the cemetery, or after you've done the cemetery, just call in, because she's more than happy for, at your own risk, to go in the old building and check it out. It's got wallpaper on there from the late 1800s still. It's incredible. Okay. Anyone tell me where this is? Actually, very close. The Church of the Good Shepherd. Desert Road, Tongariro. Yeah. But yeah, do I feel bad when I do stuff like this? No, because it's first and foremost, it's for me, and it's art. And isn't it funny that painters can take a photo of something, put it on the wall, paint it the way they see it, and nobody says anything. As soon as you do it with a photograph, everyone cries, well, cries foul, and says, oh, you can't do that. No, that's a photograph. You can't do that. It has to be real. It has to be this. It's art. And that's not decrying your comment, because your comment was a bloody good question. That's one of the best questions I've had for a while.
I'm really struggling with, because I come from a very disciplined background, and I'm loving this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased.
Just go outside after you've done it and beat yourself.
Yeah.
Just the camp of it. Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, it's okay. I'm Catholic. I can say things like that on these days. Actually, I'm Jewish Catholic, so it's even worse. I've got guilt trips on both shoulders.
But
Yeah.
even in, the images that we're seeing today, I look at them and I see discipline.
Yeah.
Your horizons, the lines.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has. How can you break the rules if you don't know what the rules are? I had good teachers. This man here is one of them. And he'd look at it and he'd literally walk past and go, no, and keep walking. Horizons have to be straight. Converging lines have to work. It has to be, no matter how creative you have, it has to be right. When Photoshop first started coming in, and I was one of I think I was the first person, other than to really use digital photography here in Christchurch. I got the first Canon 1D here in New Zealand, I think. At the same time, Ron was fiddling, and I used to say to him, "It's like, mate, just because you can do a purple sky doesn't mean to say you have to do a purple sky. It's a tool. It doesn't have to be, because it's digital, it doesn't have to be way out there with orange clouds and everything else." But Ron likes doing that, so Ron does it. I like the fact that the thing that I appreciated when digital came in was the immediacy of it. I didn't have to run back to the dark room when I was working for the paper. I could do it where I wanted to do it and send the images, and I could see how good that would get. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's a just think of Michelangelo when he's doing it, because Leonardo da Vinci, the church used to castigate him for the things he invented, but he still did it. It's art. Thankfully, we live in a society where, to a point, you can create whatever you want. It's a free society. There'll always be the 1 or 2% on either extreme that'll really, really hate it or really, really love it. But if you do it for you, then, yeah. And as I said, as long as you're open and honest about it and have a laugh about it like this, I mean, it's just fun. And it's, the fun has a reasoning behind it, because it's practice for me. So that when I am doing stuff and I am creating an image, or I am doing something that is important, I know how to do it. I know how much it takes. I know what to do in Photoshop or Lightroom to give me that effect. Because I've got clients that give me a specific brief that they want. I've got one that I've had this client for coming on for 13 years now, and I still haven't got him his image, and he still pays for me to go to Milford Sound because he wants a that's hard to say, sunset shot with with particular colors in it. And as long as he's willing to pay me to go down there, I'm going to go down. Sorry. They're getting repetitive now. So, I'll stop on the shed. The Wedderburn shed. I love this shed. Graham Sidney. Everybody knows who Graham Sidney are, aren't they? Don't you? Yep, good. I'm sick to death of being told my work looks like Graham Sidney's. I've met the man twice, and he's a grumpy old bugger. He detests photographers, even though half of the paintings he does are from photos now. But yeah, isn't it great that Graham Sidney's around, that you get your inspiration from him? No, I don't. I get my inspiration from the Magnetoro. The Magnetoro was there long before Graham Sidney came around. It is a beautiful part of the country. I like the fact that it's a lot like Scotland, the north of Scotland. It is dreich, which is miserable grey. I love the hoarfrosts in winter. I'd rather go to the Magnetoro in winter than in summer. But as long as I've got my cameras, or my girlfriend, as my wife calls it, she does. Yeah, I think I have the best job in the world, I suppose. The best job for me. I love what I do, and hopefully that comes through loud and clear. I love being a photographer. It doesn't matter whether it's rugby. What have I done the last 2 weeks? I've done ballet. I've done tennis team photos. I did the Tall Blacks on Monday night. I did their headshots on Sunday. I did a bit of bird photography. I'm not a bird photographer. I'll leave that to Paul Francis. But I'll take photographs of birds, and I'll go out to Lake Ellesmere, and I'll hide. And just me and the heron. And we wander around circling each other for a couple of hours. I've even bought a kayak so I can follow them out on the other bank. Yeah. Well, you can laugh. It's hard work trying to paddle and take photos at the same time. Ocarito is the same. I just love it. I think we've got the best hobby, the best job on the planet. And there's no, other than the rules where you've got to have straight horizons. I love telling people when the horizons are like that, I says, isn't it amazing that that boat doesn't slide off? We have the best hobby. And the best thing about it is that because it's an art, or we're artisans because we use machinery, but because it's an art form, there is no right or wrong. There's a reason there's only one eyepiece on the back of a camera. It's because it's you that decides, not anyone else. You decide whether you like something or not. Camera clubs are different because you do put stuff out there for someone else to judge. But what they're telling you, and I'm a judge as well, what we say is our opinion, whether we like it or not, or whether we think it works. If you like it, that's the most important thing. So never think that you're not good enough. We were talking about competitions, Ian. My first competition here, I had an image of a barn, an old barn up on the way to Gordan, and inside the barn was beautiful. It was like all the ruinous stuff and everything else. There was an auction sign on the inside of the thing. See, I was traumatized by this, so I remember it distinctly. An auction sign in the photo, so I took a beautiful black and white of it. Perfect, all the lines were right, everything else. I put it into the competition here, my first print competition at CPS, and it was rejected because the title, he didn't understand the title, and I'd put it in as passed in, and someone had put P-A-S-T in rather than P-A-S-S-E-D when they'd written the titles out on screen. But they didn't like the image anyway because it wasn't strong enough. So never think that you're not good enough because you are. And I've run out of things to say here. How long was that?
Hours and hours. It was really good. I
I'm
just
not
had to
normally a
text my
speaker.
daughter. I was supposed to pick her up half an hour ago, but tough. It's much more fun listening to
I'm
you.
supposed to be at the pub for an hour ago.
Okay, well, let's go to the pub and forget
Okay.
my daughter. Thanks very much. That was just amazing. Really enjoyed it. We had a great time. You can tell by the fact they're all sitting here gobsmacked that was really cool. So, thank you again. I think little thank you from us. You can go and get a couple of bottles of wine or something with that on the way.
No, beer.
Well, okay, beer, that's fine. And thank you for being our very last speaker at the Riccarton Community Centre. We'll get you back in the new venue next year.
I suppose it makes sense, doesn't it? Going full circle after 20 odd years.
Yeah.
The first shall be last and the last shall be last.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Oh, you've got a bit here. No, it's all right. Just stay there.
Stay there.
There's a bit of background story to that. I was catching up with Kevin at the New Zealand Landscape Salon, and I think you say to me that you would like to pay it back or repay what you've received from, and I thought that's a very, very commendable. It's important.
It's important.
Absolutely. And so he's here, and you have my respect for that attitude, and I think we should all do that. So, but not only Kevin agreed to talk to us tonight, he's also going to come back to tell us more next year. So about how to make AVs.
Did I agree to that?
You absolutely did. And also be the judge. So, we got something to look forward to next year, so just keep an eye out for the program. So, again.
Can you please all enter the New Zealand photojournalism competition this year, please? They need more entries. I'm sick to death of winning it, please.
Thank you.
I'm not really sick to death of winning. Sorry.
That's right. I think we just heard the understatement of the year. I'm just a photographer. Don't believe it for a minute. First of all, I have an apology. I had a brain fade earlier on. If there are any visitors here tonight, I do hope you enjoyed the show, and I welcomed you then, and I would invite you to come and see us at our new venue next year. Okay. A reminder that the next meeting is next week, but not here, at 58 Gloucester Street at 7:30, an introduction to our new venue. Hope you'll all come along and have a look at the place. The next meeting, so that is the next meeting, but the next meeting next year, the first meeting next year, is Wednesday the 29th of January at our new venue. With that, I will give thanks to all the people who've supported the program tonight, including Dennis for the early session, and on opening and closing as well. Meet and greet, John was it? Sound, Gordan, Tim, Alistair on projection, supper coordinator. And with that, I will wish you good night and safe driving home. Is there anything else, anyone? Going once, twice, gone.